Welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you from the kingdom of Hyrule, I'll be your host, Dave Trumbore. Joining me as always, he's Hyrule's red-headed hope. He's Sean Paul Ellis. How are you tonight, sir?
Oh, David. I'm doing well. How about yourself, buddy?
Fantastic. Also with us tonight, it's Matt, the Octo-Rock Baron. What's going on, buddy?
Oh man, I am stoked to get started.
Stoked to get started, spoken like a true Octo-Rock. And dear listeners, our very special guest tonight is none other than the lovely and talented Princess Allison Keene. How are you?
Hello, good.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Welcome back, Allison.
Thanks for having me.
Round of manufactured applause. We still don't have our soundboard up. Good times. That's one hand clapping, ladies and gentlemen. The sound of one hand clapping. Allison, can you refresh our memory? What were the shows that you have joined us for previously?
Are you really?
David the Gnome. Do you remember, Sean?
Yeah, it was David the Gnome.
Why do you say it with such disdain?
Because I feel like you should know this.
I'm lucky if I can remember what I had for breakfast this morning, or to show up for this podcast. So.
Well, this is going to be a fun experience.
Well, excuse me, Princess.
Oh my God! Did you really
dropping that?
Did you set me up just to drop that?
I mean, it's quite possible. I wanted to get to it before you guys did.
Piece of shit.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, that should clue listeners in that we are going to be talking the Legend of Zelda cartoon series tonight. To let you know a little bit about the history of that, I'm going to turn it back over to Sean, who is really pissed right now.
Oh boy. Legend of Zelda is an American animated series based on the Japanese video game The Legend of Zelda that was for the NES Nintendo Entertainment System. The plot follows the adventures of Link and Princess Zelda as they defend the kingdom of Hyrule from the evil wizard named Ganon. It is heavily based on the first video game in the franchise, just flat out Legend of Zelda. And there are some references to the second game in the series, which was also for the NES, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Did anybody play either of these games?
Yeah, I may have heard of them. No, I definitely played both of them.
I played the first Legend of Zelda and then skipped directly to Wind Waker.
Wow.
Okay.
How is that a direct skip? That's like a 15-year gap.
Yeah, I didn't play a lot of video games in that 15 years. Switched over to PC for years.
Allison, did you play any of these?
I played Legends of Zelda, but not on a system I owned. It was always like cousins or friends that I was able to play video games with. But yeah, I definitely remember it.
Allison was just always the mooch.
Yeah. Well, my my house had a pool, so that was the exchange. So I got to go play video games with other people. They came over and used the pool. So.
No. Just feel free to humble brag as much as you want.
Yeah. Guys, she has a pool. I don't know if you know this.
I just want to make it clear, if anyone didn't hear, that I had a pool growing up.
In which you could play The Legend of Zelda or Zelda 2. Do you remember, Sean, we didn't talk about this before, but do you remember Zelda 2, what made it a little different from the first one?
Well, Zelda 2 was very different.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first one that introduced the idea of side-scrolling for a majority of the adventure portions, but for the mapping portions, it was still the top-down.
Yeah, the overworld map, yeah.
And I hated it.
You didn't like that?
I was not a fan of Zelda 2. I had a very difficult time. There were a couple missions that I want to say it was right after the first or the second
the world?
boss,
okay.
Where it was very challenging to get a hammer to destroy a rock, and you needed a down thrust, but you had to talk to some guy in a town in a hut. I stopped giving a shit, and Nintendo Power at that point didn't have enough hints and tips for me to continue to really care. I didn't own that game. I believe I own the gold cartridge of the original Legend of Zelda, but not Zelda 2. I was just not interested in it.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think too many people were, because I don't think they ever went back to that side-scrolling again. I can't recall them going back to that until they obviously came out with the 3D on N64 and things like that.
Sure.
But that doesn't really count.
Right.
So is that all you got for history there?
Well, we mentioned last week that the Super Mario portion of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show was produced by our good buddies at Deke Entertainment. It was distributed by Viacom in association with NOA, Nintendo of America. It comprised 13 episodes. As we mentioned, this show hit our 65 episode rule, and that was because the 13 episodes filled in the gap to round out the 65, and the difference of that was made up by the Super Mario Brothers cartoon from Super Mario Super Show.
Yeah, exactly. So you'd have like Monday through Thursday for the Super Mario Brothers cartoon, and then you would have every Friday, you would have the Legend of Zelda. Now it was funny because when we talked about Super Mario Brothers, they would stop in the middle of the show just to have a commercial for their own cartoon show on Friday.
I can't imagine a world where you'd be waiting with bated breath Monday through Thursday with the idea of, man, I cannot wait for that Legend of Zelda show to come on Friday. Friday, TGIF, I cannot get enough. And then it would just come on and you would put a gun to your forehead.
Yeah, you would just watch this mess. Because we'll talk about this one. So again, we normally talk about bad cartoons in a sense of like things that just don't make sense or they're so crazy you got to watch it. This one's just bad on a fundamental level. There's no.
Although I will
say, terrible. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
yeah, in defense of the show, it is considerably more canon than the Super Mario portion.
I'm sorry. Did you say considerably more Ganon?
Oh, god damn it!
Oh, Jesus!
Strike two.
How do we put Dave in a timeout for the rest of this podcast? If
Well,
you
it's actually Baron's turn to talk
face the
anyways.
corner and put a dunce cap on, you dum-dum.
Yeah, dumb.
No.
I'm going to put my stocking cap on for tonight.
Put your Legend of Zelda sleep PJs on.
Yeah, trademark.
Just go stare at a corner.
Yep.
Matt, would you like to
Save us.
give us a summation of this garbage pile?
Absolutely. So the opening credits, once you got past the painful Super Mario Brothers intro, the show basically glanced over the premise in the intro by saying that this is the Triforce of Wisdom, side pan to the glowing blue cube, or green, depending on what episode you're in.
Right.
The evil wizard Ganon has the Triforce of Power. Whoever possesses both Triforces will rule this land forever. You must help me, Link. And this is the part where
I love the impassioned plea in Baron's voice right there. You must help me, Link.
Well, when she said you must help me, Link, I was like, well, where the fuck is the third Triforce?
Well, we'll get to that because Sean was just talking
Yeah,
about canon
but,
of this with the games.
Also, Dave, lay off of Matt.
I
You
just
know
was
he
not-
isn't able. He has the inability to show inflection and emotion in his voice.
You must help
Hey,
me.
man, I'm at a 5 every day of the week. So,
Never
every
get into a 6. Never get into that 4. Just
That's
toe the
right.
line.
5 is nice and predictable.
Even keel all the way through.
At any rate, every episode of The Legend of Zelda follows the adventures of the hero Link and the Princess Zelda as they defend the kingdom of Hyrule, with a Y, from the evil wizard named Ganon. Most episodes consist of Ganon or his minions either attempting to capture the Triforce of Wisdom from Zelda, kidnap Zelda, or otherwise conquer Hyrule, rinse, wash, repeat. In some episodes, Link and Zelda are assisted and accompanied by a fairy princess sprite.
Also with a Y. Baron, I want to get you in some pitch meetings because I feel like if we just get you in front of some executives, whatever the idea is, with your passion and your energy, we can't fail. So just thank you very much for that, sir.
Exactly. They might hate the idea, but they'll say, my God, that was the most even-keeled man I've ever met.
He must be doing something right.
Is that gentleman on a perfect balance of uppers and downers where he's just constantly at a certain level that I achieved to one day get to?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Question mark.
It's nice and smooth.
Absolutely.
Unlike
Maybe
this
two.
show, not smooth
Or-
whatsoever. Do you guys want to talk about the intro theme song to this one? I mean, Baron kind of covered it. They don't do much other than just kind of spell out what the entire series is supposed to be about. Did anything stick out to you guys? Sean, I know this is kind of your area.
Well, Dave, thank God they spelled out exactly what was going to happen because it was not at all in any way, shape, or form apparent from watching the show itself.
Wasn't it, though?
I say that with a heavy dose of sarcasm.
There it
The
is.
same thing happened every fucking
Sean,
episode.
ladies and gentlemen, Sean possesses the Triforce of sarcasm. I don't know if you were aware or not, but
Ooh, I like that. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna pocket that.
he's got it. Did
I'm
anything
going to
jump out
steal
at you,
that.
though? Anything from this?
It wasn't a part of the theme song. It just had a lot of the recycled animation from believe the first episode and then one of the later episodes. So watching the first episode, you saw a majority of the animation that was in the theme introduction.
Yeah, it's like a clip show for what you were going to watch for the next half hour. Yeah.
Exactly. It spells it out very clearly what they're fighting over, and that is reinforced throughout the entire show. So there's no doubt in your mind what is actually going on here. You know who the bad guy is. It's Ganon. You know that they're. I'm sorry?
That's pretty much all you need to know. I mean, it was weird because it was like the theme song within the theme song. And we talked about that last week. There's the Super Mario Brothers live-action mess, which is still fantastic.
I still love it.
Baron, was there anything that kind of jumped out at you about the intro?
Only the completely repetitive nature of it and the fact that, I mean, the theme song for me and the intro just in general kind of sets up the show in a way that the theme and intro have more action and plot than some of the episodes.
Yeah, which is weird because they just use the clips, but they just cut out all the garbage that's in between, and they just get right to the action and the real kind of meat of the episodes, what they're about. There's not
this show would be wonderful if it was just a smash cut of a couple key scenes, followed by a "Well, excuse me, princess," and then that was it. Theme song, roll credits, blackout.
Look, I would have liked it better if they did, instead of just previewing what the episode was going to be, I would have preferred if they just like portioned in a few minutes of the episode Monday through Thursday instead, so you just kind of like watch it over time, or just something else completely. But
like this
I'm sorry, did you say you wanted to prolong the pain by introducing little snippets of this?
Well, it would be turning it more into a soap opera of a young rapist and his struggles to try to overtake a princess who always gets him out of trouble rather than the other way around.
See, she sold it to me now. I would like to watch that.
I do have a question though about the catchphrase, because for a lot of the other shows that y'all cover anything, I mean, is this something that's unusual? Is there usually a catchphrase that's introduced in the theme that's then like repeated throughout every episode?
Ad nauseum. I don't know. Can you guys remember a theme song?
No, this is very unique to this situation.
It feels very sitcom-y almost, you know, like
it is.
It should have had a laugh track.
It's very chummy. It's hard.
You know, it was really one of the few shows that we've watched where it had the real kind of hallmark of a 1980s era kids show. Like, it was definitely for, you know, the 7 and under crowd for me, but like some of the other stuff, like, I don't know, not to go into a lot of other shows, but like Rocko's Modern Life, that kind of plays more to like all ages. But this show is definitely like, with the excuse me, like all that kind of stuff, it really just plays to, in my mind, a much younger crowd than some, if not all of the other shows that we've watched.
Okay, I wanted to a little bit because I feel like it's very important to kind of separate out a couple of things. In terms of plot and in terms of acting and dialogue, yes, it's skewed towards kids. The rapiness, however, I would argue, is very strange for 7 and 8-year-olds to be watching. And I know, Matt, you talked about that earlier too, so you're aware of that. I just want to kind of, it's a weird juxtaposition of those two things.
Dave, I want to break it down even further and separate it a little bit more and say that there are two parts. There is the "excuse me" catchphrase, and then there is the odd sexual overtone that is very apparent in this show. And to go back and think about this slogan, this banner that they carry throughout the entire show of this excuse me, princess. Is this a direct inference to the Steve Martin punchline that he did in the 70s, where it was literally him saying, "Well, excuse me," and then they just tack a princess on at the end of it?
It kind of has to be. I don't know why there was such a discrepancy, you know, just such a span of years between those two things. I guess whoever wrote this, Bob Forward, was a gentleman who wrote a lot of these episodes, unfortunately. I don't know, maybe he was a fan, maybe he thought it was funny, maybe he thought it never got old. Do you guys remember how many times they used this line in the 13 episodes of the series? Listeners out there, guess, take a guess.
You brought up this fact, so we'll wait a second if people want to shout out a number, and then we'll tell them whether or
Just
not they're
shout at your
correct.
speakers in the middle of work, or if you're riding the T, or whatever you're doing. 29 times. 29 times in 13 episodes they said this. We've only said it like twice on this podcast, and that's already more than enough.
Right.
29 times. Now, granted, they do use it in the intro, so you are automatically getting 13 there. That still means they used it 16 more times in the case of the plot of these 13 episodes. And we only watched 3. Do you remember how many? Allison was keeping track of.
We actually watched 4.
Oh, yeah, we actually watched 4 because we were so into those. Not really.
Are you guys all right?
Bunch of overachievers.
It was on autoplay. We just didn't have the strength to get up from the couch and turn it off. We were just so disheartened.
That's upsetting.
Yeah, it really was.
Well, I think it just plays into the fact that he's just being constantly rebuffed by her. Like, it sets up this whole thing where it's like, I do something almost completely meaningless and I expect a sexual favor because of it. And when you don't give that to me, I'm like, what the hell?
And just to clarify, she is talking about Link and not me. I just want to make sure that was clear to the listeners.
Really, half a dozen to one.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Oh boy.
But
same thing.
But yeah, I mean, like, that's in every episode. And I also think it's really interesting, though, that Zelda is a really capable female character. Like, she's not the damsel in distress in the tower needing to be saved all the time. I mean, in the episodes we watched, she tended to be more competent than Link and often ended up saving him, in which he still somehow, in his delusional state, thought that he had done something for her that required some smooches, whether she liked it or not.
Although, in episode 3, the White Knight, she did need to be rescued.
That's something we'll talk about, because for the first 2 episodes, she like quite literally wears the pants in this show. We're introduced to Link, and he's not wearing any pants, so we'll talk about that in a second. But she literally wears the pants. She's very capable. She has a bow and arrow herself. She rides horses. She actually rescues a damsel in distress at one point.
The 4th episode.
Yeah, in the 4th episode, which I don't know if you guys saw or not, but so she's incredibly capable. But to Baron's point, when the White Knight shows up, this very handsome, kind of He-Man looking character, she kind of just turns into a puddle and just becomes this damsel in distress. It's a really strange and unfortunate change from the first 2 episodes, and then even in the 4th, they go back to her being very capable.
In the 3rd episode, with this vain Fabio Chris Hemsworth character that they introduced.
He actually was,
Yeah,
I think he got the
you
only
said
real
He-Man,
laugh.
and I was thinking more She-Man.
You went with She-Man? That's a fair assessment.
I think his character got the only real laugh from us when he refused to go into the mud because he might get it upon his clothes. He says, what does he say?
Yeah, so to give you an idea, he looks kind of like He-Man, but he also looks like Fabio. So to Baron's point, he's basically She-Man. And he's all in white. His horse is all in white. He's very proper. He's very put together. At one point, he's trying to rescue Zelda, and she gets kind of dragged literally through the mud of like this muddy swamp. He pulls his horse up short at the swamp's edge, and he kind of looks over. His name's Prince Facade, by the way. And he looks at the camera, and he just goes, "Oh, mud? No, I'm afraid not." And he just goes into this like really effeminate like tirade about why he refuses to get dirty and he will not rescue Princess Zelda. And it was great. It was like the only honest laugh this show got from us.
Yeah.
Your delivery there was spot on.
Little known fact, I actually voiced Prince Facade in 1989 at the age of 6. So,
Oh boy.
Man, you hit puberty real early.
it was a rough, high school was rough.
So
Kindergarten was rough.
we've talked a little bit about Princess Zelda, and Allison, I know that you mentioned that she is very capable, and I am not doubting her capability. I am curious why you think she continues, though, to rely. If she is as capable as she is, as you posit, why does she continue to rely on such a wandering, adventurous buffoon to defend the one thing in the entire kingdom that continually comes under siege?
I think part of it is her father's fault. Doesn't he sort of hire him? And then we see the father in like one of these episodes,
Right.
and he's basically
Episode
Robert
3.
Baratheon from Game of Thrones. Like, he's just a drunk,
Fat, drunken mess.
like forgetting why. He's like, where is Link here? Where is Link? And I think she just sort of puts up with Link because she's been like her father hired this guy. She's like, okay, this is his job. Like, I'm not supposed to have to deal with this. He's supposed to take care of it, and he's just a complete like failure at this. and she has to sort of pick up the pieces. But I think that, you know, maybe
Although he's not a total failure, in many cases he ends up assisting or saving the day himself or rescuing Princess Zelda. I know that this is becoming very quickly a shit on Link party, but he does a decent job on occasion. I think the problem is from watching this show is that they are putting one person in charge of something that is a source of power, and they have not hired any other fucking guards in this goddamn kingdom.
Wide open tower, yeah.
It continually, the gap is that you put one person in charge of one thing, and then you walk around and you're just like, hey, I need you to clean the castle for me today. Is that cool? Do you have anything else going on? No? Sweet. Awesome. Here's a mop. Get to it.
Here's the thing, so I want to field this too. I think the princess kind of sticks with him because there is quite literally no one else in this kingdom. We only see, we see like a blacksmith. I don't even know if you guys saw that. Did you even see the blacksmith?
Yeah, he was in episode 3.
Okay, so he was in 3. You see maybe a handful of people on the market, but this is a kingdom, not just a castle. There's nobody around. So it's pretty much they're like the same age. They've apparently had adventures together in the past. And we can talk about this once we get into the plots, because you're kind of introduced to the show with Link kind of laying out in a weird, whiny exposition sort of fashion, like, man, I used to go on all these adventures, now I just kind of like sit around all day and do whatever the princess tells me.
Well, his favorite, my favorite line, the one that I laughed at, was in that episode where Link is in this show a petulant piece of shit.
Yeah.
And in this first tirade that he's going through, he's lamenting about the fact that he is not going out on adventures anymore. He's not having fun. He isn't enjoying himself. And he sits there and looks and it just goes, I'm sleeping in beds. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa, just keep bragging, buddy.
When he said, I used to sleep in the mud, I was like, yeah, that's, you're really roughing it now, buddy.
Yeah, you really took a step down when he took this gig, asshole.
It's just such a weird decision from a storytelling point, though, too. Like, from the people who know the video games, he's an adventurer. It's the Legend of Zelda. We don't really hear any of Zelda's kind of story. She's just kind of the princess in the castle. So we don't see him on any real adventures to the point of going out, having a quest, having a goal, exploring the kingdom, saving the citizens of the kingdom. He just kind of hangs around the castle, cleans stuff up, and just bitches about it the entire time. They did not give them anything to do, really.
I also have a question about, Sean, I think you were the one that said that it sticks kind of close to the canon of the game.
Sure.
Why is Link a brunette?
Ooh, dye job.
Serious?
I'm sorry?
Isn't he blonde in every other iteration of the game?
Very funny story. So I looked this up immediately as I was watching it because I did not think that was his actual hair color. If you go back and you look at the original drawings for Zelda 2 and Legend of Zelda, he had brown hair. It wasn't until I think in A Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo, he still had brown hair. From that point forward, they began to introduce a blonde-haired Link.
I think it just stands out better against his green kind of hooded, whatever his getup is, his tunic and pants and whatnot.
I mean, they just wanted to make a whiter hero, so give him blonde hair. God.
But also to the point of like who the series is aimed at as far as like age groups go, I have a confession to make.
Sure.
Here we go.
Oh, God.
When I watched, what year did this come out again? 1989?
89.
Okay. So I was like 5 and 6 when I was watching this, and I had a crush on Link. Like, I thought he was cute. Like, I thought it was cute for a dude to be like, excuse me, princess. And honestly, watching it now, like, I don't even know who that person was that could think such a thing. Like, it's so far removed.
It's been a real awakening for me.
it's bizarre. Like, when I watched, we're going to do this show or whatever, and I watched the trailer or the short clip or whatever for it, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I used to love this show, and, like, Link was so cute. And then I watched it, and I was like, my God.
He's a monster.
Pacific barbaric. So, yeah, I feel like, we just don't even understand, like, the way that this would appeal to kids anymore. Like, we just can't even, it's just so far removed. So I think that, Baron, to your point, I think it was that this is made for really little kids. Like, I guess I have to agree. Like, I think they just experience it in just a completely different way.
Look, I'll say made for little kids, not good for little kids.
Yeah,
I think that's
important distinction.
Yeah, that's a distinction. Yeah.
The other thing
gotten
that
into Sprite's sexual escapades yet.
Boy.
well, I can't wait because that's probably my favorite character, my favorite part of the show. But I want to mention something before we get into the Sprite sexual awakening about this show. What, Matt?
And constantly cock-blocking Link.
But she wanted it. She would look.
Oh, yeah.
She was there, and she was looking to smash. She was just trying to hit and get out. And she was assertive. I can appreciate that in a woman. Why not? She knew what she wanted. She wanted that Link dick, and she went for it.
Yeah, she was 3 inches tall, by the way. So put that in your mental pictures there, kids.
And I can't wait to Rule 34 that.
No, this is why I didn't actually do that. I would have been very disturbed. I'm sure with properties this popular, though, there would be just a ton of mess to sort through, so I don't even bother.
I'm going to get my incognito browser out.
Oh, yeah, get those sunglasses on.
And I'm going to say,
Dave.
bars away.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Sean.
They exist.
I'm sure. Thank you, Sean. I'm sure they do. This is very like smoking man moment right there. Sean just deep throated us. What?
Yeah, he did.
Oh no, they exist.
Yee, collar pole.
Sean, right
The
back
one
to
thing
you.
I wanted to ask. The one thing I wanted to ask is that I know that we have brought up as I think Allison put it, the rapiness of Link in this show. I want to say that I don't actually think Link's rapiness is as bad as we are making it out to be. Now, hear me out on this.
Okay.
Link feels like he was written by a man, clearly either Bob Forward, who actually is going to be writing who wrote some of the episodes for the series that we are going to watch next.
No spoilers.
So hold on to your butts.
Yeah.
And the other person who wrote episode 2 was Phil Harnage. I want to say that either Phil and Bob were either in crappy marriages or they grew up with a 1950s mentality of how a relationship should work. I don't think it was rapey. I think there was an expectation. There was a sexual expectation in terms of the things that were happening there, which was very odd. And Allison, you hinted at it as sort of the finish an adventure, expect a reward.
Right.
The point of this is that a reward never occurred. In many cases, I don't think I ever saw in these 3 episodes Link get a kiss.
Although I think
In fact, I want to say in episode 2, Zelda rubs her body in a flirtatious manner against Link and then hands him a mop and is just like, fucking get to work, bitch.
Well, I think Baron pointed out the scene, remind me that where Link actually just like says like time for smooches and then jumps on her. So there's
That was a little creepy, yes.
Yeah.
I will not dispute that.
Well, look, I think the point that she was trying to make before was that if you're a hero, you're an adventurer, and you do happen to save the princess, that does not entitle you to any sort of sexual favor, unless,
and
Sean,
I
to your
agree.
point, it's like the
I
sort
agree.
of classical, chauvinistic, stereotypical view. Then, yeah, at that point, I can see why it would be written that way. Yeah.
I will not dispute that. I believe 100% in what you are saying. That is correct. There should be no expectation. But at the end of the first episode, there is almost a consensual kiss. And then, Allison, to your point, the line that Link says to Zelda when she is on his bed is, "Oh boy, smooching time." And I rolled off the couch.
Well, yeah,
It was a weird 1950s like mentality for how a relationship, like smooching time. Who the fuck says smooching time?
Link does, apparently.
like a 12-year-old
misogynistic
from, like,
elves.
1940s.
Yeah, smooching time.
Yeah, like a newspaper
Nosy.
boy from like a 13-year-old newspaper boy from like the 20s. Will be, oh boy, smooching time.
Oh golly, it's time for smooching.
I feel like Link got a pamphlet in Hyrule about what romance was, or how to romance somebody, and it was like, hey, so you're trying to romance a princess, and he's like, oh, I'll read on, and just like continued to flip through it, but only really got the Cliff Notes version of it. Didn't actually ingest any of the material in the document.
And I feel like to continue that idea, I'm pretty sure Sprite picked up on it as well, and she tried to use it on Link. So, Sean, there's your in. We can talk about Sprite, and then Baron, I want to get your thoughts on both Sprite and Ganon, because we have not talked about the big bad yet, and I want to make sure.
I'm sorry, did you say canon?
I did say canon.
You said canon?
Yeah, I meant Ganon.
Oh.
So
well, that fell flat.
What you got on Sprite?
She is a straight up sexy elf. She is the Navi before Navi entered the series.
Yeah, she's a fairy pixie kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess Navi was introduced in, was it Legend of Zelda 64?
I mean, that's the first time I remember her being that annoying or existing.
Hey, listen!
Oh. Link! Ugh.
Link! Hey, listen!
Can you just do that throughout the podcast?
Just anybody start talking, and I'll just be like, hey, listen! And then immediately underneath where your field of vision is, you'll see press A to continue, and you will just begin smashing it.
That's how it works.
You want to
when Sean
flip through
remixes
those
this
screens.
episode for us, he's going to find a soundboard for what was it, Ocarina of Time, and he's just going to work some sound effects in for us here.
No, I'm going to try.
Fantastically.
So,
but yeah, anything more on Sprite other than just her sex appeal and her sexiness?
I mean, she is more like, Sean, when you were saying about how, Link, like, yeah, okay, maybe he's not rapey, he's just a little confused about what the proper courting, whatever is, but like
Link is like an entry-level sexual predator.
Right, yeah. But Sprite is like 100% overt in her desires for him, and
amorous.
Every episode, she's going for it, and if she can't get it, she's making sure the princess doesn't.
That's right.
So I don't know.
I don't know what's going on there. I'm sure you rule 34 that, and there's some disturbing things out there, but we'll leave that up to the reader's imaginations. Anything more on Sprite? I want to talk about Ganon now, because he might have been my favorite character in this show, because he has so many weird quirks about him. But Baron, buddy, you've been kind of silent over there. How do you feel about Ganon?
Ganon is like, he's hilarious to me, just for two reasons. One, when he first comes on in the first episode, what was the name of that?
The Ringer?
I forget. But, oh yeah, The Ringer. Yep. I looked at him and I was like, that is like the most metal pig I have ever seen. Like
if
with the tusks.
Yeah, if him and
the
tusks
got together, going upward, the red eyes, like the hat, the cloak thing. I was like, it was just absolutely like, something out of like, a Screaming for Vengeance album or something like that. But the one thing I didn't get, like when he was talking about like his powers working like in the underworld, I think they called it, but and then they don't really work like above ground, but they do. Because he, like, creates that bird, turns it into a bat, like, does other stuff with his powers. So I guess it's just his teleporting power that didn't work.
Now,
but
please, can you please expand on his teleporting power? Because that might have been my greatest source of delight in this show. Just the way he used it.
Basically, he just uses it to, like, jump from, like, 3 feet to, like, 3 feet, little jumps, but... Like, he'll go from the ground and then teleport into a chair, which is perhaps elevated 1 foot and 2 feet away.
Right.
I was just like, you lazy piece of shit. Like, he teleports on top of that, like, weird-looking beetle thing.
Yeah, I love that beetle.
And it was just... I was like, that beetle is, like, 18 inches off the ground, man. Like, just step your fat ass up there.
Get a ladder, like, get a Werner ladder, and just climb up. This show brought to you by Werner Ladders.
It only worked in your house, which is basically what Ganon's teleportation power is. It only works in your house. Like, why would you walk to the TV and turn it on or off? Why would you walk to the bathroom? Why would you walk to the kitchen to get a snack when you can just teleport everywhere and you never have to use your own legs? I love that. I love that he would just blink from one place to the next.
That brings up real questions that I'm going to struggle with for at least a week.
I know, buddy. I'm sure you're jealous of the power.
Why don't I have this power? And yes, I would use it exactly in that manner.
It's no wonder he's so pissed off all the time. But I'll tell you what, for a supervillain on a kids' cartoon show, he's not competent at all, but he gets real damn close to succeeding very early on. Now I think is a good enough.
Tenacious.
He's very tenacious. He does not give up. Every single episode, he's really going for it. Even while the idiots are cleaning the castle or out playing in the mud, he's trying to steal this Triforce. So I think now this is a good time to talk about the Triforce. Why there are only two. Do you guys have any kind of background from video games, Sean?
Well, there are three Triforces. There is the Triforce of Wisdom and the Triforce of Power, which are respectively owned by Zelda and Ganon. And then Link is supposed to have his own, which is the Triforce of Courage, that they never really mention in the first three episodes. I guess I'd be curious to see if in the additional episodes if they ever mention that Triforce, but I'm not that curious to actually go through and actually watch the episode.
Right? Nah, we'll read a synopsis here or there, but that's about it. What I don't get is since they introduced him after all of his adventures, he's not sleeping in the mud anymore, he's sleeping in beds.
Bragging. Hyrule brag.
Hyrule bragging. You would think that he'd have that Triforce laying around somewhere because that was pretty much what his quests were all about.
Sure.
Yeah, and you wanted to unite them, and then they'd control Hyrule and blah, blah, blah. But you needed all three. And now they've only got two, so I don't really know what happened to that third one. Maybe it was like a naming rights issue? I don't know. But for people out there wondering what the hell's going on, we have no clue.
The people who own the naming rights for the word courage were just like, I'm not letting this happen. I'm not happy with this, and I'm not letting this pass.
I don't blame them if they actually watched the show. I think they made the correct decision.
There is a very strong courage lobby here in DC, so I totally understand that. And the people who wrote Courage the Cowardly Dog, I understand.
Yeah. Ooh, we gotta watch that at some point too. I remember that being quite good.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything else for the characters as they are right now? Any quirky moments? Anything that you want to call out before we get into some of the plots? I know we've talked about them a little bit, but just to kind of lay out how these repeatable, rinse and repeat plots have kind of been.
Well, I think in summary, we can say Link is petulant, Ganon is incompetent, Sprite is continually horny, and Zelda is incapable of running a kingdom.
Fair, but when your kingdom only has 10 people in it...
I think she's incapable of firing Link, but otherwise I think she's actually like sort of a surprisingly positive female character for this kind of adventure series. Like I can't really think of too many others, you know, in cartoons sort of this ilk that have females that are that capable.
Yeah, I think she's holding it together, to be honest with you. She was a surprise of this show. I really expected to just watch the show and see her as just a damsel in distress the entire time, have Link come to the rescue, do it again next week. But she was surprisingly like, yeah, it wasn't interesting. They didn't do anything fun or interesting or go out and save anybody. She did in the fourth episode, which we can talk about. But for the most part, overall, they didn't do anything interesting. So I think that was the detriment to her. But I actually enjoyed her character.
That's interesting. Hey, Matt, can I sidebar with you for 1 minute?
Absolutely.
You know, Dave and Allison watch one additional fucking episode than we do, and they think that they know this goddamn series.
You know, it's really getting intolerable. I really think we need to address this more directly.
I don't know if you can hear my eyes rolling, but it's strong. It's very strong. I'm annoyed.
Hey guys, I think we lost you for a second there. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, what's up, Dave?
Okay,
How are you?
No, Allison and I were just talking about that fourth episode we watched.
God damn you.
It reveals so much more about
really
the princess's character. Especially the time
You know,
she
I don't
stepped
have a
on
professional quality microphone, but can you hear my teeth grinding?
Allison actually mentioned a really good point that I don't think you guys picked up on. The Princess Zelda does...
Was it something in the fourth episode?
Yeah, she does actually
I bet you it was.
She hooks up briefly with another really hot chick. But we're going to save that, keep you on the hook. We're going to talk about the episodes we actually all watched together before we get to that.
Hey, Matt, can I have a sidebar with you for a minute?
Absolutely, buddy.
Is he going to continue to rub this in our face that we only watched 3 episodes when we explicitly said we were going to watch 3 episodes and he watched 1? I want to be very clear. Dave watched an additional 16 minutes more than we did.
16 minutes and 55 seconds.
Shut the fuck up, Dave.
And he's going to keep rubbing it in our face just like a steaming pile of shit.
Oh, God. All right, let's get back into
All
this.
right, let's talk about the ringer real quick. You you guys want to talk about the ringer, so
Dragon.
actually watch that. Not the one starring Johnny Knoxville, the one with Link and Princess Zelda.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Well, this is the
Both were
episode
equally
that's
retarded.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Well done, sir. Baron's out for the night. He's done.
Mike.
Mic drop. See you
Well
later.
done, sir. Yeah, I don't know. This is kind of just the introduction to the characters, the kingdom / just the castle of Hyrule, and definitely kind of Ganon shenanigans. So
Shenanigans.
Shenanigans?
Yeah, there you go.
This episode had one of my favorite creeper scenes from Link.
Really, right out of the gates, huh?
It actually was. It was right when he walks out onto the terrace and then looks down,
Yeah.
At
yeah,
Zelda.
that started early.
and he gets creeping on those titties, and she gets very uncomfortable. Although, you know, if you're walking around on a terrace in a nightgown and you're flaunting it a little bit, I mean, I can understand early in the morning, you haven't had that first cup of coffee, trying to get your shit
Well, I mean,
together.
she's there on the balcony,
Seriously.
you know, enjoying the beautiful day. She looks up to see a pantsless man leering at her. I mean, conclusions can be drawn.
I'm pretty sure.
Allison,
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure
I
Sean
love that-
basically just said she shouldn't have dressed that way.
Oh,
is what I
boy.
heard.
no, that was
Ladies and
not.
gentlemen.
Look,
She was fully
She was
dressed.
definitely
Like,
asking
she-
for it,
I thought she had like a nightgown on though.
It was like it was.
She
fully
did.
dressed.
Yeah.
but it was like an off the shoulder thing. But then I love when Sprite comes up and like puts the robe over her. I was just waiting for Sprite to call her like a whore or something like that.
Still a kid's show. Not so overt, but pretty close.
Actually, could we back up slightly and talk about Link's pantslessness and the fact that
Please.
he has an entire fight scene with no pants on, in which
Yeah.
the angles are dangerously close to going up his.
Self.
Yeah,
Allison, would you say that you almost saw his master sword?
I would, and I am
Hmm.
disturbed.
Go
deep
on,
And
go
his
on.
bag of holding.
Bag of holding. Sean, I'm surprised you didn't go for the big Goron sword. Surprised you didn't go for that. Master sword's good though. I like that one. That's better.
Yeah, thank you.
2 points.
2 points.
I'll take it. Take what I can get.
Yeah.
Allison,
Yeah, awkward.
you were talking about his dick angles, his dangles.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's an odd choice to open the series with. Is just this pantsless guy, and like, you know, the shirt or whatever. It's not a tunic. It's not like something that comes to his knees. It's like barely covering his ass, and I just feel like that's just an odd place to kick things off. Like, here's this warrior, whatever, but he's pantsless, and I don't know. I found it bizarre.
I get it, but he is new to sleeping in beds. This is
That's true, but
This
does
is
that
the-
mean that
this
he's
is an
used to
unknown to
sleeping
him.
pantsless in mud?
That doesn't
Yeah.
seem wise.
Doesn't seem
pajamas were not a thing that he consumed himself with when he was adventuring.
I suppose. I suppose.
So let's get that straight.
I think this episode actually featured, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of my favorite modes of travel in Hyrule. Do you remember this one? So the premise of this one is basically that the kingdom is holding a magic tournament. They're basically looking for the strongest magician or the strongest wizard in town, more or less. And
Oh, not the card game.
Yeah, not the card game. Actual
Cool.
wizard. Actual wizard. Sorry, everybody out there. So Ganon, of course, decides this is a great opportunity to show up and disguise himself, very much like the plot of, I don't know, pretty much any sort of fantasy adventure series out there. They've all had these kind of episodes. Robin Hood comes to mind. So he disguises himself and he goes to the castle and he just wants to infiltrate so that he can steal the Triforce. There are some really shitty wizards in this town. Some really shitty wizards. Basically, all they can do is just make plants bigger, and then just make stuff explode all over the princess. That's
Or
really all I
remove
remember.
the smell from his socks.
Yes, yeah, clean his socks up.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, still not real great wizard powers, but what was the line? So there's at one point that Link and Zelda are trying to go after Ganon and to reclaim the Triforce or prevent him from getting it. They use this huge plant that's grown as kind of like a catapult.
Yes.
And Zelda basically, she kind of puts this together and she's like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. And Link says something to her like, do you remember how he put it? He says something to the effect of, Princess, that's why I love you. You're so...
Oh, I do. I remember
Okay,
this.
You got it?
I wrote this down because I know exactly what you're going to talk
It's
about.
terrible. Yeah.
He says, "You're my kind of girl."
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 50s Link again.
Do you realize though, if you go back and watch that scene,
Yeah.
his mouth doesn't move when those words come out.
No, this whole
How's
thing,
it-
the production quality of this is not great.
Yeah.
The audio visual were not.
Colors change all the time. Baron mentioned that earlier, that the Triforce just changes color at random.
The Triforce is also a real judgy dick.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Seriously,
I
talk
mentioned
about
that.
a
I made
know-it-all.
a mention of that, yeah. Where the heck did I put that? Basically, so the Triforce of Wisdom is just kind of like a rhyming, nagging mother. Like, she's always telling you to kind of like clean up your room or do the right thing, but it's always in a rhyme, it's always in like a couplet. And it's basically just in the room with Link the entire time. So it's I kind of don't blame him for being so pissed off most of the time. Because could you imagine living with this thing?
No.
Also, you bring up a good point there, Dave, because in the defense and constant assault of capture attempts of this Triforce, you would think that they would perhaps move it to a different location instead of keeping it in exactly the same place so that you know where to find it every fucking time you try.
Baron, that
To
is literally the
piggyback
note that I
off
wrote
of
down.
Baron's idea,
Yeah.
you'd think that they would at least station one or two additional fucking guards there.
Yeah. And maybe
Or
put some
perhaps
bars on
not
the
have things
goddamn
like windows.
Yeah, thank you.
God.
Or like portals in the floor.
Well, I love that the goblins use like the trap door or whatever they were called. They use the trap door in the first episode to just sneak up on Link while he's sleeping pantsless and more or less get to stealing the Triforce. Like, there is zero security at this place.
So I have a question for Allison.
Okay.
If those moblins had creeped into his room undetected with a pantsless Link, what do you think would have happened?
Well, you're the one that looked up the Rule 34 site, so why don't you tell us?
I think it would have gotten real sexy. I think it would have
I'll
gotten.
tell you what would
real
happen,
sexy.
Sean. Butt stuff.
But stuff.
I think that's within the realm of possibility.
Oh, I don't even know where to go from that. Hey, let's go to the second episode. So, in this one, this is the one Sean talked about before, where basically the entire episode has nothing to do with adventuring. It's all about cleaning the castle. And that is not a euphemism. They literally just clean the castle. And it's called Cold Spells. Why? Because Link decides to play hooky and pretend that he's sick. That's it. That's pretty much it for the entire episode. The only
This
thing
is the episode that
You know,
has the "Oh boy, smooching time"
Yes.
quote in it,
Yeah.
where
Also-
Link lunges at Zelda, who is laying on his bed.
That's true.
I think she's just sitting there, resting from all the cleaning that she's
I
been
don't know.
doing.
She was laying there pretty provocatively, if you ask me. Not really.
I think what Dave just said is that she was laying there and she was expecting sexual favors.
Yeah, nailed it.
Dave, Dave, I don't
Baron, I
think
think
that's
you had
the way to
Baron,
open
you had something to add to this one, did you not?
Yeah, the two things about this episode brought up where are the people that tend to this castle?
Right.
Also, when there's Ganon's like troops and all that kind of stuff. Like, tries to grab the Triforce and they run out. And there's like a little fight. Where is the army? Don't castles usually have like troops and guards and more than 3 people?
Dude, there is nothing in Hyrule at all, ever. There is nobody that's there. There are peasants, and then there is a giant gap in between soldiers or lesser lords, and then it's just Princess Zelda and the king.
There's a
That's
lot of
it.
chickens. A lot of chickens around usually.
Hmm.
Yeah. Not even so much in this one. In this one, I would like to mention that I'm pretty sure. Do you remember when Sprite was flying around and she wanted to make Link feel better?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure she did not pay for that
Yeah.
orange that she took.
she did
She
not.
did not pay for that
She
orange.
ripped that old crown off.
She really did. Did not pay for that orange. She's also apparently slave
bitch.
labor because the princess just kind of orders her around and makes her clean everything up.
But she has magic.
She does have magic, and at which point it becomes very Sorcerer's Apprentice. Like the magic, because of a curse from Ganon, her magic kind of gets away from her, and
Well, this whole episode turned into Disney's Fantasia
yes,
at a certain point.
Ganon is basically like the dancing crocodile hippo character. Yeah, at one point.
Well, just with the flooding and the mops and the buckets and the At some point, Sprite gets kicked in the face by like a tea towel or like a linen towel jumps up and it just sprouts legs and it just kicks her right in the face.
Yeah, that
and
was
she
pretty good.
bounces off.
That was
I
a
love
pretty good
that.
laugh. That was intense.
Oh, that was too good.
I gotta tell you though, I think probably my favorite of the episodes that we watched, 3 or 4, was the White Knight. How do you guys feel about that? Baron, were you a fan of the White Knight?
Honestly, your characterization and voice over of the White Knight was better than the entire
Well,
episode.
thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was real bad. It was, He-Man's more effeminate partner,
Right.
I will say.
So you're
And the
saying like
plot
Prince
would just,
Adam and Prince Steve, maybe?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
you know what? Let's go with
Yeah,
that.
we'll go with that.
But I mean, it was just there was no plot except for Ganon tries to kidnap the princess. It it was like 15 minutes of just straight up, Zelda, just wooing over this dude, and then Link just takes off. And I was like, you know what? If I were Link, I'd be like, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah, he has a couple of moments like that. Allison, I want a lady's opinion on this sort of love triangle that was going on. Love Triforce, if you will.
When you pose this question to her, can you do it in the voice of Prince Facade?
Oh, you gotta.
You gotta, bro. You gotta, bro.
What is that
Oh,
voice?
what?
Yeah,
What is
you
that?
gotta, bro. All right.
You're slipping into Mrs.
Sean, are
Big Head
you
territory.
Hard.
you
I'm super hard. Yeah.
Ugh.
are you doing voice work for like Monster Energy drink in your off times? Because I mean, you are making me pretty thirsty there, buddy.
This is graphic.
Do the voice, Dave. Do it now.
Oh, Allison, how do you feel about the romance Triforce? I can only do it if I've heard it already.
What now? You want to?
Do what now?
Oh, yeah.
I've wooed
You
her.
have melted her
She's
heart,
been
Dave.
wooed.
That's a beautiful
Oh,
thing.
there you
She's
go, buddy.
uncomfortable.
Yeah. Welcome to the show.
Sounds like it's time for smooches.
You mean like how it played out, or you mean like?
Yeah, I don't know. Did you have any kind of like just response to this love triangle? Did it just seem?
Did you throw up in your mouth a little bit?
Did it make you disgusted?
No, I mean it's pretty standard. I think in most kind of story, you know what I mean. Like you've got the main couple, and then some other dude or chick shows up, and they seem at first to be, so much better, but it's a facade.
Ah, there it is.
And whatever. But actually, I
Oh.
think it did. The best thing that it did was provide an opportunity for Link to actually be
Yes.
the hero. For
Thank
once.
you. Thank you.
Because before that, and that Zelda actually needed to sort of be awakened from this false idea about this dude,
Right.
and that she was actually in peril and needed him to help her in a way that she could not assist with. Because usually, like, even if she's like needs, it's more like a partnership with Link. But in this case, he actually had to save her. So that felt much more like a typical plot where you'd have the adventurer come and save the princess.
Look, and honestly, like the worst part of this was that for the first few episodes we saw, Link was terrible. He wasn't really all that competent, and he really wanted just a lot of sexual favors. This time, he actually had sort of like an emotional interest, an emotional turn. He kind of had this sort of self-reflection where he was like, oh man, I really do like the princess, and she might be running off with this guy. Oh, screw her, man, I don't care. And then when she needs help, he's like, oh man, I guess I gotta go back and help her. And it was a moment where he could have saved her and then not been a jerk about it. But they just ruined that anyway, because he was still basically like, all right, time for some smooches. So, and then they just kind of went back to the same old, same old. So, kind of unfortunate. Anything else from that episode, you guys?
I had 4 things that I enjoyed about this
4
episode.
things, Sean. Sean's 4 things.
Oh, Jesus. Here we go.
Number 1, when Prince Facade is fighting the Octorok,
Yeah.
the Octorok shoots something at Prince Facade, and he deflects it with his shield,
Right.
and then just throws his shield away.
Yeah. He's like, I
That
don't
was the
need a
best
shield.
part.
Yeah.
Oh, that made me giggle a lot.
Hyrule's disposable shields.
There is number 2. There is a moment where Sprite is flirting with Link, and she's trying to in earnest make him feel better about the rejection that he is going through. And there's a line that is almost spoken in inaudible fashion where she just goes, "I like you," especially at this moment, which is Link in a tub taking a bath.
That's
And
right.
she is straight peeping on that D.
As Allison mentioned, she is the moaning Myrtle of Hyrule.
100%.
Yeah, it was pretty
That is so
I
good.
was just waiting for her to say, "Well, these bubbles won't be around for much longer."
Oh, nice.
No.
Well, she says in this instance, the dialogue becomes inaudible, and I had to watch this at least 4 times, and then have a friend watch it and be like, "What does this say?" And my friend Chris was just like, he had to be the one to decipher it for me. But Sprite goes, "I like you, especially at this moment." Good. And that's what she devolves into, which is like a giggling fairy.
Oh boy.
Are you sure she didn't just like orgasm?
Yeah, she might have just got there.
She may have. I mean, I guess.
You don't
I
know
don't
what
know.
fairies sound like when that happens.
I do not.
Now you
I'm
do,
not.
Actually, now you do.
Yeah.
We
I
have it
do.
on a recording, so you can just play it back.
Number 3, for anybody who has ever watched or played a Legend of Zelda video game, could you, gentlemen and lady, explain to me the name of Link's horse?
Ooh.
What? Yeah, it was like an actual, real human female name, wasn't it?
Well, so in this episode, he calls it a woman's name, but it is not the name of any of the other horses that he's ever had in the video
You
games.
know,
It's
as
not
soon as you say
canon.
it, I'll know it, but I can't think of it right now.
Yeah.
Well, the horse's name in the video game is Eponine.
Right, right. Or I never read it that way for some reason. I always read it Eponia,
Okay.
but that's
Because
Eponea. Yeah, because pony, so Eponia. That's just how I read it, but now I remember. Yeah.
Well, now I'm concerned that I'm wrong with
Why?
this.
Does he say it that way in this?
It is Epona. Or, I'm sorry. Eponine is a character in Les Miserables. I'm a dumb dumb. Oh, shit.
Prince Facade would have known that.
I wouldn't know that. Guys, spoiler alert.
Buddy,
Next week we're watching
you
Les
could have kept that
Miserables,
one
the
to yourself.
cartoon series.
I wasn't going to. For the handful of listeners that are out there that are going to call me on this bullshit, I want to keep it 100. Link in this episode calls the horse Catherine.
Catherine.
I totally missed that.
I
He
missed
looks at the
Catherine,
horse
of course.
and just goes, "Is that right, Catherine?" And I
You
cringed
sure he wasn't
so
drunk at
hard.
this point?
I'm
You
sorry?
sure he wasn't drunk at this point? Not you, Link.
No, no, I don't think he
Clearly drunk at this
was.
point, yeah.
He had like catapulted. Link does so much parkour in all 3 of these episodes that it is insane. And in this moment, he like jumps out of a window onto the back of a horse. It looks like it's a 20 to 30 feet drop, and just lands with his crotch.
Yeah, I remember that. That horse should have just snapped in two. Either the horse or Link. One of them should have just snapped in half.
I think my 4th and final moment that was fantastic about this was Prince Facade breaking the 4th wall at the end of this episode and just cheating to the camera and giving a shoulder shrug,
He was pretty
as
good.
if to say, "I don't give a
Yeah,
shit."
he's like, they're paying me, they're paying me pretty good for this. I'm gonna roll on to the next thing. That's why I
And I
like
think
it. Yeah.
And I think that was sort of my attitude after watching the third and final episode that we went through was, I don't really give a shit.
Fair enough. Actually, I think that's a great way to wrap this up because we're at about our hour mark. So
I'm all about segues, so you're
all about
welcome.
Segue, Sean. So Baron, did you have any final thoughts before we get to recommendations?
You know, just the final scene that Sean brought up, I was like, yeah, you know what, this really sums up my experience here. So, Sean, I share your sentiment.
Thank you.
Fair enough. And Allison, any final thoughts?
Yeah, so I guess y'all probably heard that there was the rumor that Netflix was maybe going to have a Legend of Zelda live action series.
Yes.
Which Nintendo has vehemently denied is the case. But I really can't blame them after seeing this because I would never license my property out ever again after this fiasco. Although having said that, I mean, honestly, I would actually be really excited if something like that came out. Like if they had some sort of like a more lighthearted, medieval themed kind of Game of Thronesy action series for Legend of Zelda, I think it would actually work. But I'm just afraid that this has just tainted the waters forever.
Yeah, Nintendo.
Well, I want to,
Go ahead, Sean.
Allison, bring your attention to a video game that was licensed out by Nintendo. It was for the Philips CDI console that came out. That was a Link, the Faces of Evil, and Zelda, the Wand of Gamelon, and another one called Zelda's Adventure. These are, you can find video for them on YouTube. And if it wasn't bad enough after watching these cartoons, the Philips CDI versions of The Legend of Zelda and Link are worse.
Oh no. Yeah, so you can see why they'd be hesitant to license that out again, but I don't know. It's sad because I really did sort of remember the series fondly, and I'm sure you guys come up against this quite a bit in your podcasting, is that it's sort of like in your mind, like, I think I enjoyed this, and you watch and you think, oh God, why did I waste so many hours of childhood on this? And what has it done to me in my subconscious? Like, what, I don't even know, what lasting effects
every week, Allison, every week.
Every week is a roller coaster of excitement and anticipation, and then utter depression and sadness. Unless you're Matt Barron, who's staging
every day is a winding road.
Always a 5.
Always a 5. Okay, we'll do a round robin again quick, and we'll do recommendations. So, Sean, Legend of Zelda, do you recommend?
Watch the theme song and then stop right there.
Baron, Legend of Zelda.
No.
Wow.
Straight up no.
I love it. Allison, what do you say?
I'm going to ditto with Sean because I think that everyone, if you watched it at all, what you'll remember is the "excuse me, princess," and you'll get like 1 second of like, oh, nostalgia, and that's all you need.
That's all you need. As for me, I'm going to say go ahead and just watch that 4th episode, which I don't know if we talked to you guys about, but it was actually pretty well done. Zelda kind of hooks up with another hot chick on the show. While that happens, Link gets turned into a frog and forgets how to use his hands. So I'll just leave that little teaser out there. That's kind of fun. Yeah.
You're just continually lording that one extra episode over us.
So
Thanks,
you guys
Dave.
watch it, yeah.
Jerk.
Piece of shit.
Oh.
It's called Kiss and Tell, which is also the title of Sean's post about his sexual fantasies with Sprite.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's a nice synergy for Saturday morning cartoons. That's going to pretty much wrap it up for the Legend of Zelda podcast. Now it is time for us to hawk some wares. So I'm going to turn it over to our special guest, Allison Keene. She's going to let you know what she's got coming up in the next couple of weeks and where you can find her on social media. Allison.
Sure. So when I'm not watching terrible cartoons, I am the TV editor at Collider.com. And so you can find me at collider.com/TV. And on Twitter, I'm KeeneTV. That's KEENE-TV.
Excellent. Baron, what do you have going on these days?
Pretty much just this podcast. So
Oh, I'm so sorry.
keep it going.
I'm so sorry, buddy.
This is all I have,
Oh my
Dave.
God. Listeners, please send some love. Baron, where can they find you on social media?
Add bag of
You're
sandwiches.
still the best.
The best.
Sean, you're okay too. What do you have
I
going on?
know.
The day that this podcast comes out, which will be April 11th, 4 p.m., I'm going to be performing at the Source Theater in Washington, D.C. You can buy tickets witdc.org, and that'll be a 4 p.m. show that's in anticipation of the Fist finale, which will be later that night. We'll be performing as a part of the semifinals. Later this month, for April 22nd, you can find me in Boston. I will be up there for the Women in Comedy Festival. Short film that I worked on last year was accepted into the festival, and we will be up there for the talkback and the screening and award ceremony for our short film.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then if you are in DC on April 18th, these are all totally out of order. If you are here on the 18th, if you come to Adams Morgan area, there is a theater there called the DC Arts Center, or DCAC. I will be performing there with a show, a storytelling show hosted by Chinese Menu. I will post the link and send it over to Dave if you are interested in purchasing tickets.
The link. He's going to post the link.
Oh, I hate you so much.
That's my strike 3 for today.
Nice.
Buddy, where can
Yeah.
the folks find you on social media?
You can find me at Sean Paul Ellis on Twitter and the Instagrams.
As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Dr. ClawMD, or you can also head on over to Allison's site, collider.com/TV, where I do recaps for Gotham coming up this week, also The Flash, Arrow, and I'll be doing Game of Thrones. I'll be doing Game of Thrones.
Are you really?
Yeah, looking forward to that. That'll be fun.
Oh, I'm excited about that.
Yeah,
So
nice.
guys, come on over and check me out. If you want to find out more about Saturday morning cartoons, come on over to SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. You want to check out Sean's handiwork on the Tumblr page, there may be a lot of Sprite stuff happening. I can't
100%.
100% Sprite. Can't promise anything. SaturdayMorningCartoons.tumblr.com. Drop us a tweet on Twitter at MorningTunes. You can also send us your suggestions and your well wishes, and just check in on Baron, make sure he's doing okay. SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. You can also listen to the podcast each and every week through iTunes and Stitcher. And that's about it. Sean, do you want to let the folks know what we've got coming up next week? We're continuing our video game cartoon series for the month here.
Sure. We are going to be watching the original Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon as a part of our video game month.
Looking forward to it. I'm
Yeah.
hoping it's better than the last 2 weeks have been. Let's go Sega. Let's go Sega
Yeah.
Genesis on this one.
Hopefully. Well, Nintendo. What was I forget what the rest of the plug
No,
was.
that's
Was it-
perfect. That was perfect.
Nintendo.
Hang.
Just like Sonic the Hedgehog, you keep grasping for that ring, buddy.
I wanted to ask Dave.
Oh no.
I know a big portion of the show was the Super Mario Brothers Super Show.
Yeah.
If you were to add, if this was the Legend of Zelda show,
Yeah.
what would come after the colon?
Legend of Zelda : Legend of Zelda :
Yeah. Like if you could sum up the wonder that are the 13 episodes of The Legend of Zelda, what would be the tagline? What would be their Tokyo Drift?
Oh no.
Excuse me, Princess.
Legend of Zelda.
Ooh, that's a good one,
I'm
Allison. I
gonna let
like
her
that.
take it because I got nothing tonight. I'm tapped out.
What was that? Allison, can you say the full title of this wonderful show?
The Legend of Zelda. Excuse me, Princess.
Perfect. Beautiful.
This has been Saturday Morning Cartoons. Thanks for listening. See you next time.